On today's episode of Locked On Spurs, we're having a crossover show with Locked On Fantasy Basketball.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is going on, Locked On Spurs fans? This is Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Happy Monday. Hope you're all having a great day off, Labor Day, and enjoying some extra needed R&R, getting those batteries recharged on your day off. But hey, the show does not stop here on Locked On Spurs. We keep it going. Today's episode is going to be a good one. This is a chat that me and Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball had recently. And, maybe you may not subscribe to him, but you should. Locked On Fantasy Basketball, go do it. But if you don't, here it is for you. It's a really good show. Me and Josh, we pretty much talk about, obviously the projection of the Spurs, their win total record, who else, who's on the hot seat, who has the most to prove, who can be the starting lineup, so much more. Who is the surprise player to look out for this upcoming season. It is a fantastic episode. I hope you enjoy it. And especially on your day off, if you're chilling by the pool, maybe at the gym, getting some extra time, at the gym to lose some weight or get in shape. It's a great way to listen to all things San Antonio Spurs. Just a heads up though, Josh, it was on his platform, so it was on Locked On Fantasy Basketball. So he is hosting it. I am his guest. But again, this is a great episode. Check it out. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs.
Let's talk San Antonio Spurs. Year 2 for Victor Wembanyama, Steph Castle in the draft. They bring in Chris Paul. Are they serious about pushing even further? Well, we'll find out. Michael Bolton, maybe he knows something?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I'm the president of the Genuine Fan Club. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. Give us a thumb, a comment, a subscribe. Get those numbers up as we head into the season. This is the last of the individual team previews that we're doing. We are going to be doing full team previews from a fantasy perspective in a week or two, but this is from the beat writer perspective to get those sort of insights. So this is the final one of those, as we've done that over the last couple of weeks. A couple of teams we weren't able to get around to, and I didn't want to leave it pushing too far into September, just with scheduling issues, so we're not going to do those. I will cover those teams probably first off when we talk about the fantasy side of things for those squads coming up. We are here to talk, like I said, about the San Antonio Spurs, and we're going to be doing that with the host of Locked On Spurs, Jeff Garcia, so let's bring him in. All right, he's back. It's Jeff Garcia. He's been on this show many, many times here from the beginning of the Locked On Podcast Network. Jeff, welcome back.
Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
It's good to have you here, mate, because this is a really interesting team, obviously, that has had their fortunes changed at the beginning of last season with the draft, and then we saw that with Victor Wembanyama last season. I think that we all had really high hopes of what he was going to be able to do, but what we saw was probably what we thought maybe year 3 or year 2 Wembanyama would do, and now honestly, like, we sort of had this idea of like, okay, what can he do? We don't know, and now it's even more like, Jesus, like, where do we go? Like, what is the actual ceiling here? We're going to talk more about Wemby later on, but this is a very different vibe on this team now because you've got the piece of all pieces that every single team is going to want, and he is here now in San Antonio. Let's start by having a look at the players that they brought in over the offseason. They start to make a splash. Like, Chris Paul comes in, they bring in Harrison Barnes as well as a future first round pick swap. They draft Steph Castle. They get another Harrison for some reason. Harrison Ingram in the draft. Malachi Flynn comes in. But it's really like the idea of signing Chris Paul, which is very clear why that is there. It's to help Wembanyama. It's bring in the veteran Harrison Barnes. So, look, putting all these things together, Jeff, is this like them saying, all right, Victor is good already. Like, we are making a play-in push now.
Yeah, this is something they should have done last year in Victor's rookie season, bringing in a Chris Paul like guard and then a veteran like Harrison Barnes. Well, whatever, It's now. It's here. Let's rock and roll. This is exactly what the Spurs needed, with some veteran injection, not just on the court, but in the locker room. No knock on Cedi Osman or Doug McDermott, but they were not of the ilk of Barnes. Been there, done that, won a title. Chris Paul, deep playoff runs, point guard, Hall of Fame bound. They didn't have that type of presence. I think Chris Paul is just going to make not just Wemby's days and nights awesome, but the rest of the team. The rest of the team is going to benefit from having him on the floor with them, even on the bench and in the locker room. Look, I was in the locker room many times last year, and yes, it is a very young team. It seemed like there was not really any type of veteran presence. I think Chris Paul is going to organize that quite nicely. And Harrison Barnes, again, a nice complementary piece to Wemby, but also I think more impactful for a guy like Devin Vassell and the rest of those forwards, even Jeremy Sohan. So those two are exactly what the Spurs need. I think the Spurs are on track to make it into the play-in, although Las Vegas has them winning about 35, 34 games. That ain't enough to get into the play-in tournament in the West.
No, it's not. You need more than that, but I think it is distinctly possible. Now, the biggest addition is rightfully you've highlighted is Chris Paul, that comes in on a one-year deal. Obviously, his role was very different last season, really low usage, only 26 minutes a night playing for Golden State. But, of course, that's because he was playing behind Steph Curry, and he will start on this team. No worries about that. Yep. And there still were some of the signs of the old Chris Paul. He's never going to be the same. But look, what are you expecting out of Paul this season? We're not thinking he's playing 34 minutes a night, but he's getting a 30-minute. Basically, I would say, Jeff, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that he just does like exactly what Trey Jones did, like plays at 30 minutes a night, and that's what he does.
You nailed it on the head. Yeah, I'm not expecting 40, 35-minute nights for Chris Paul. Pop and notoriously mindful of player minute management throughout his entire tenure as a Spur. So same thing will apply for Chris Paul. Interesting, though, you bring up Chris Paul and Trey Jones. I think there's now a logjam at the point guard spot in San Antonio. Last year, there wasn't. Everybody was crying about it. There's no point guards in San Antonio. What's going on? Well, you got 4 of them now. You got Paul, you got Castle, you got Jones, and you got Blake Wesley. Something's got to give. Could that give be at the trade deadline? Maybe Paul gets traded to a contender. Maybe he's there for a short-term rental. Maybe he gets waived so he can latch onto that. But regardless, if he's here for half a season or a full season, Chris Paul is going to benefit the point guard core as well as the rest of the squad. So I definitely see heavy minutes shared between Chris Paul and Trey Jones and Steph Castle, which leaves kind of Blake Wesley as the odd man out.
Yeah, I don't really see where Wesley's going to be able to play on this team. But the Paul thing is interesting because, like you said, maybe he's traded at the deadline. I think that he will make this team good enough that they'll be in a position that they will be pushing for that play. And I think getting that experience for Wembanyama, for Vassell, for the young players, and having him there the whole season is way more valuable than actually just casting that off. And like if you're in that mix and seeing where you can go with Wembanyama, and again, the development of Chris Paul putting everyone in the spots they need to go. Like, yeah, you're here. Like, here's an entry pass, Vic, and like in Vassell, you're here in this spot. Versus like Wembanyama calling and Calin Johnson dribbling it into his own shin or something, trying to figure out where to go. Like, just and getting a whole season of that and seeing how far that pushes gives them more information. Versus like, oh, thanks for the 3 months. We'll see you later. But again, so many different things can happen.
And let's not knock out Steph Castle jiving and blending and working that chemistry with Wemby almost seamlessly. He's a bigger guard. He's the biggest guard the Spurs have of the 4 that we just mentioned. And he has experience playing with the big like Donovan Clingan out in UConn. So I think that'll translate well with Castle moving into a guard position. Is he a point guard? Is he a guard? Don't know yet. In Summer League, he played a heavy point guard, but he has the physical ability and the talent, the skill set to play multiple positions. But however, I do think it's going to be his defense that gets him minutes because I think his defense is going to be really good. That's going to translate pretty quick. And that's going to put a smile on Pop's face. So I really believe that those 3 guys, Jones, Paul, and Castle, are going to be sharing the bulk of the minutes at the point guard spot. I would like to see Chris Paul and Steph Castle out there together at some point during the season.
I think you will see that. In terms of the guys that have left this team, it's Osman, there's Barlow, Devontae Graham, Raekwon Gray. It's nothing that's really super important with any of those players there, so we don't need to focus too much on that. But what we do need to do now, Jeff, is talk about the projected starters. You came to me with your projected starting group, which is exactly the same as the group that I had. Chris Paul, Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Sohan, and Victor Wembanyama. Now, I put this graphic out on social media yesterday, and I had multiple people comment, which stunned me, and said, "Oh man, why isn't Calin Johnson starting?" Okay, he didn't start last year, so there is.
He started last year.
There is no chance to me that he is starting in this group. I don't know where his future is. We'll talk about him in a second, but this to me is the real common sense group. I will use. I'm going to talk Wembanyama, I'm going to talk Sohan a little bit later. I think Barnes obviously has dropped off quite a bit from where he has been, but like Chris Paul, like 29, 28, 30 minutes as a starter, you mix in a Champagne, you mix in a little bit of Calin Johnson there. Like, again, it's just smart players in the right spot who aren't like screwing things up to let the other guys thrive, and Barnes can work in a low usage role. So look, again, I don't really see any other configuration they could go to. Again, some people will say maybe they start Castle instead of Barnes. I don't think there's really much chance of that.
No. Maybe sometime down the road in the season, like let's just say a play-in spot is just out of reach. At that point, you got nothing to play for. Just work the kid in, get some starter minutes, and move on. But you were talking about the roster right now. You went through the starting five. You pointed out some bench players right now. You know what? The one thing that still concerns me though is who is the shooters from this team.
Yeah.
I cannot, as of right now, unless they make a change, I cannot look at the roster right now and be like, that's the guy. Yeah, Wemby's double or triple, dump it out to him, money. I can't. It's definitely not Sohan. The closest I got is maybe Vassell, maybe Keldon, Barnes, but I don't think there's that knockdown outside threat. It doesn't have to be a three-point shot. Just a guy that's going to keep the defenses honest when they're double or maybe triple teaming Wemby. I don't see that on the roster right now.
No, you're right, because like Vassell's a pretty good shooter, but that's not his role. And Barnes is an okay shooter, but that's not his role.
Yeah.
And Sohan's not that, and Johnson is not that. And you're right.
Trey Jones is not that either.
No. Trey Jones has had some horrible shooting numbers in the past.
Yeah.
And Castle is not that. Like, none of these guys are that. Honestly, this might be good. Is Zach Collins the best shooter? Like, outside of maybe? Like, I don't even know. Like,
Penny?
Yeah, maybe it's him. Yeah. Like, because Malachi Branham's not really a shooter. Like, he's not. Like, Wesley's had some terrible shooting numbers in the past. Yeah. You're right. I've never really looked at it this way, but you're right. There is a real shooting lack on this team, which is going to make things a little bit interesting. We're going to talk about the projected bench group in a sec, but
hey, but first I want to talk to you about Game Time. You're going to go to gametime.co right now. Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks, and it makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff, just shows you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Hey, today's Game Time, it was Labor Day. They got a 50% off Labor Day offer right now for Diamondbacks and Dodgers. They got it there for you. Go check it out right now if you're in that area. They got so many things you want to look forward to. Again, seat views before your buy, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. They got it all. Game Time Picks. Well, the curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. You get a panoramic view, the lowest price guarantee. What more do you need? Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. Hey, I want to talk about Mudslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. Go there right now. San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Go out there right now. It's the best coffee in town. And they got a great menu, great staff. Proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs and a proud community member of San Antonio, giving San Antonio the best drinks in the city. You need a latte, you need a cold brew, you need caffeinated drinks, decaffeinated drinks, you need a signature drink like the Mudslinger. What about mini donuts? They got it all at Mudslingers. I was there recently. I picked up one of their energy drinks called the Lightning Bolt series, and let me tell you, it is good. And well, first of all, you got to try the Alien. You know what that's about, Victor Wembanyama. But just a heads up, they now are going to have the Lightning Bolt series in Lotus Energy, 7 power plant extracts made just for you. Flexibility to create new drinks, so much more. But if you want a Red Bull, they'll add it for you, but you just got to let them know ahead of time. Otherwise, the default is Lotus Energy. 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Go there right now, San Antonio. Follow them on social media at Mudslinger SATX. Do it right now because life is too short for bland coffee.
A Jedi uses the Force. To subscribe to Locked On Spurs, pass on what you have learned.
All right, so we've looked at the projected starters here, Jeff. That means the obvious thing to go is the bench group, and we've got Trey Jones, Steph Castle, Malachi Branham, Keldon Johnson, and Zach Collins. Let's just quickly use this part to talk about Keldon, because again, like, people are, man, where's Keldon? Like, where is he in this team? I was very adamant at the start of last season that they should have tried to cash in and move away from him, because I did not believe that he was a key starter or rotation piece in this team. I would say any hope of that trade value has completely disappeared for that level. Like, what is he even as a player, or how he's viewed in the organization?
He's viewed, well, first of all, he's viewed highly among the organization. And it's not just what he does on the court, but he does off the court in the community in San Antonio. He is plugged in, from helping kids get backpacks for back to school to lending his voice and his name to area companies. So he's good about that. And on the court, you look at him and he still produces, though. I mean, sure, he can't knock him down consistently, but he's going to get to the bucket. He's going to get the and ones. He's going to play some defense. He's going to bring a lot of energy, and he has a lot of positive vibes in the locker room. I talked about earlier, how the locker room was, sometimes you can tell it's a very young team in the young locker room. Well, even during the 22-win season and another tank season for the Wemby sweepstakes, he was always the one guy that was still smiling, keeping spirits up in the locker room, cracking jokes, keeping things lively. And I think the Spurs really like that about them. He is the longest tenured Spur on the roster.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy. That's crazy to say, but he is the longest tenured Spur. But I'm not going to be surprised, Josh, if he gets dealed at the trade deadline at all. I will not be surprised. I don't think anybody should be surprised. He has a trade-friendly deal, contract. He's still very young. He's a gold medalist.
Yeah.
He averages for his career double figures, so he does a lot of stuff. Defensively, he's okay. He's not the best, but he's adequate. So he is there. I know you said it right now that a lot of the trade vibes of him probably evaporated last season. I still think he could still be on the table. There were rumblings the Spurs were chasing Lauri Markkanen. He could have been a part of that. That's come and gone. But there is still next offseason. And I think if any time he's going to get traded is going to be after this offseason. I'm sorry, this upcoming season and into the next offseason.
Yeah, when I meant his trade value had gone, it's more that any level of this guy is a starter, an up-and-coming player, he's on USA basketball, that sort of idea of anyone getting sending a first-round pick back for getting him. I think that sort of ship has sailed at that point. Maybe it wasn't even available to begin with, to be honest. Maybe no teams were offering that to begin with, but that part of it is sort of out of there. In terms of what we want to look at now, we want to look at who the player is to watch on this team, because there's a lot of interesting things here, Jeff, with this squad and interesting players. And the one that you've highlighted is the guy that they took high up in the draft, number 4 pick, Steph Castle. I have my cards on the table. People know my thoughts. I am not a massive Steph Castle guy. I worry about the shooting. I worry about whether he's a point guard. I worry about whether some of the stuff that he did was because of the system at UConn. He put up huge usage numbers at Summer League, 34%. He played 26 minutes. And I think that gets people's attention. Man, look at all these shots he's taking. He still was horribly inefficient. And there'll be people who are playing fantasy, Jeff, and look at Steph, and they're going to go for this, and or he's going to have this huge role. I look at it and go, there is a chance to me that he gets 0 point guard minutes for big stretches, because that would Chris Paul's going to play 30, and Trey Jones, I guess, gets 18, and Steph is the backup shooting guard who can't shoot. I think it's going to be pretty rocky, especially early on.
Well, that's why I put him on my player to watch, how he's going to fit into the Spurs system. He talked about his shooting ahead of the NBA draft night, and he's going to say the right things. He wants to get drafted at that point. He's just saying his shot. He's aware of it. He said it doesn't need to be broken down and reconstructed. He said it just needs fine-tuning. This is where a guy like Chip England would have been great if he was still in San Antonio. But you're right. There's question marks about his perimeter shooting. The Spurs have been scouting him since he was in high school, So he's been on their radar for a long, long time. And look, they need a point. From what you're watching right now, it's so weird. It's almost like they're trying to reconstruct the big three, the golden era: Tim Duncan, Tony, and Manu. They got themselves the Tim Duncan. They got themselves the point guard. We don't know. Could it be Castle for the rebuild? I don't know. I don't know. I cannot sit here and say Steph Castle is the point guard of the rebuild, and away we go. Golden era again, volume 2, here we come. I'm not there yet. So, and I know a lot of Spurs fans are high on him, but I look at the summer league and I go, that's just what, a 2.5 game sample?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And they shut him down.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't know. I want to see how he plays against your SGAs, your Luka Doncic's, that ilk. Let's see what the kid is made of. And look, SGA and Luka, they cook everybody. It's going to happen to him. It's going to even happen to the best of them. How is he going to handle Steph Curry? I want to see that, because if he's going to make a name for himself on this roster, at least in the short term / his rookie season, is going to be on the defensive end.
Yeah, it has to be, because the usage and ball handling opportunities just aren't going to be there. Now, it will be really telling if they decide that they're not playing Trey Jones and Steph Castle is the backup point guard, but I don't really see that. And when they signed Trey Jones last offseason, the contract was very, very clearly, this is a backup point guard contract, and we want you to be a backup point guard. And obviously there's all the stuff at the start of last season, and Jones came in and really did kickstart a lot of what led to a lot of improvement with Wembanyama and the whole team. So again, just for people who are looking at Castle and these opportunities for fantasy, the opportunities aren't for a number 4 pick. They're not really as wide open as some other number 4 picks, because of Paul and because of Vassell and because of Jones and because of Wembanyama. He doesn't have 30 minutes and 25 usage and ball handling reps everywhere. They don't exist, Jeff.
Josh, let me throw it out here. Mm-hmm. Should he go and spend time in the G League Austin Spurs then?
Yeah, look, what we've seen over the past couple of years is that some higher picks have spent a little bit more time. And in the past, it was like a big slap in the face. You go to the G League, what am I doing down here? But now it's happened a little bit more. It's happening also with players playing in Summer League, past their first season. I think it would be hugely beneficial. And as you well know, Jeff, Devin Vassell did part of that in his rookie season, and Malachi Branham, and not that they're number 4 picks, but these guys did spend some time in the G League, and the Calvin Johnson barely played as a rookie. Again, these are later picks, but the opportunity wasn't there for them on the big team. They played nearly a whole season in the G League or limited minutes. Smaller role. Vassell may have not have played much in the G League, but he played like a 20-minute, 22-minute a night role, whatever it was, and it's just a slower process. So to me, beneficial for his development. Yeah, I think you want to sort of split it, playing with Chris Paul and working that out, but also getting some opportunities to be the guy is useful there too. They out of any franchise though, they seem to be one of the ones who's more likely to be just sit down for a bit and let's just see. We want you in the best environment versus you're a high pick, you have to do this right now. I think they are more likely than anyone to do that.
No, absolutely, yeah, and Trey Jones spent time up there. Kelvin Johnson was there. Yeah, Devin Vassell, he did not though. That was during the pandemic. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, he skipped that whole process, but it's been beneficial. Blake Wesley was there. He even said that it was the Austin Spurs coach that gave him the most confidence. It wasn't Pop. It was the Austin Spurs coach. So, I'm going to be watching that. So, it's definitely, I'm looking at Steph. Will he ride the pine? Or will they send him to Austin? Will he get those minutes? Will he be the ball handler? Will he be the off guard? I don't know. We'll see. This show episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Look, we all can use some help sometime, and available is online therapy. That's where BetterHelp comes in. It's anonymous, it's secure, it's everything you need from an online therapy website, and so much more. Look, we all have ups and downs in our lives, and when they're down, they're down. When they're up, they're up. Doesn't matter. You don't have to experience major trauma if you want to use online therapy, and if you do, you want to go to BetterHelp right now. Therapy can help you reconnect with a sense of wonder because, what if you have kids, and you got to take care of them, but sometimes you forget about yourself. Well, don't forget about yourself, and that's where therapy can help you even get back on track if you lose your way. But if you're doing things right, go with BetterHelp. It'll help you continue having those good times. Look, it's helpful for everyone to learn positive coping skills, how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. And this is just for those, again, who experience major trauma. It can be those who are having good times and want to just keep them going. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. And you just fill out a brief questionnaire. Get matched with a licensed therapist, switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today. Get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
Hello, Spurs fans. Joker here, and I listen to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia. And you better too.
We will see. It is something we got to watch because that is, he is that high pick on this team that's not Wembanyama, and we need to see what what role they're going to end up giving him. Let's talk about a make or break player for this season, Jeff. Now, this is the guy that erroneously started at point guard last season. It wasn't fun, but it was fun in terms of it gave them a head start in getting losses, which helped in the end. But it also, I think because people just looked at them and went, what a disaster, Sohan's useless, this is so terrible. But I think it actually helped some of his game that we saw in the second half of the season. I thought he played better in the second half of the season, and I think that sort of goes under the radar because people would love to catch on to one little thing of, man, Sohan, remember when he was a point guard? But then he moved back to his natural position. I thought he was better. He wasn't awesome, but like his free throws have improved. His three-point shooting is not disastrous. He averaged 3.5 assists. There was enough there for me to go, yeah, I think this was bad for the team and wins and maybe for Wembanyama initially, but overall, I think it will help Sohan, I think, as he settles into more of a natural position.
Funny you bring that up. I talked to him about that to close the season last year in the the farewell conferences, end of the season conference, and he told me that it was an adjustment. I can read between the lines with Sohan, but he said that it actually did work well for him. He said it made him a little bit of a better player. We'll see, but he is definitely on, in my opinion, kind of a make or break right now because it's that outside shot. Can he get it consistently? Okay, fine. They went to the one-handed. Yeah, he went to the one-handed free throw. It got better, but his free throw percentage is not that stellar. We know he can hustle. We know he's an irritant. We know he gets into fights. We know he can rebound. He can clean up messes. I think all I would like for him to do, even if it's just a little bit of a baby hook, a little bit of a jumper, just something, because I would love to see him and Wemby in the pick and roll. I would love that. It's not that he ran the pick and roll. He did it for almost half a season last year. He has some familiarity, and at Baylor, he did play the point guard for a bit.
He did,
so he's familiar with it. But if he could just develop a little pop shot, just something, I think that would do wonders for him and the team. He is definitely a player that I'm going to be, looking at as, you got to prove something. It's not just me. It's not just you. He said it himself. He spoke recently with an English magazine outlet. Forgive me the outlet. I want to resource it correctly. But he's got a Hero. Yeah, sorry. It was a magazine, Hero magazine, that's in the UK, and he told them that he's setting his bar higher heading into next season. So will he reach that personal next level that he's setting for himself? We'll see. He said he's fine coming off the minor ankle surgery. He played with Team Poland this summer. He got some reps in. He's staying in shape. He's putting all those Instagram videos that every single NBA player wants you to watch. So he's doing all the right things, but he's definitely somebody I think he's going to have to up his level, because I don't think if he reaches that next level, then after this upcoming season, next season, I wouldn't be surprised to start hearing his name pop up in trade rumors.
Now we get into what I think is the major storyline of the season, Jeff, and I think it's going to be relatively obvious because this is the guy that drives everything on this team. It is Victor Wembanyama, who was unbelievable.
Is that Charles Bassey? I thought it was Charles Bassey.
I like Charles. I like Charles Bassey. I'm a big Charles Bassey guy. But Victor Wembanyama, you wouldn't have seen, as good as we can think that he was better, and then he kept getting better, and he kept getting better, and he will probably be. I don't even know if he is, but I think he's probably going to be favored for Defensive Player of the Year. He's got an outside shot as a top 5 MVP. Honestly, this is how good this guy is. He only played 30 minutes a night. He moved to center after 15 games or whatever it was. So I guess the major storyline is this is here. We are here with Wembanyama, and it has arrived already. So it's how far can he drag this team up? Does he add 15 extra wins this season? What are we watching for here? Because this, even as good as you thought he was, Steph, you couldn't have expected that.
Yeah. He averaged a little over 20 points per game last year, led the league in blocks, 3.6, 3.9 around there. It was just ridiculous what he did. And you throw in Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Pick and roll time. Here we go. Lob City version 2.0 is coming back. And basically, and I think with Wemby, the sky is the limit.
It is.
Look, at the end of let's just say this way, Josh. At some point at the end of this upcoming season, let's just say we're past the All-Star break, and you look at some numbers, and for your show or Locked On Spurs, and we say, okay, so last week Wemby had 3 quad doubles, I wouldn't be surprised.
No,
at all.
No,
I wouldn't at all.
That's the thing. Like whatever he does, you go, yeah, okay, that actually checks out. Like that makes complete sense. Like it's that's how crazy. Like honestly, if he this is going to sound insane because if he had a quintuple double with 10 steals and 10 blocks, 10 assists, 10 and 15 rebounds and 30 points.
I don't think anybody would be surprised.
Yeah, you look at it and go, oh yeah, that actually tracks up. That makes a lot of sense because he had multiple like big steal games and big block games, and obviously he was passing the ball well. Like he was doing everything, and this is the chance to like be really like it's game changing, honestly, for so many parts and players and people around the league. And that's I guess we know how good he is. I guess part of the major storyline also is like who are the pieces that they feel comfortable that he brings along. Yeah, are they comfortable with Vassell? Like where is Sohan in that? How does Castle look? Is Chris Paul working or not? Like to me that's like we know where Wemby is. It's like who gets brought along with him this season.
Yeah, and I think that's where all his teammates are on notice for
they have to be. Era. Yeah,
they have to be, and that includes a guy like Devin Vassell and Sohan and Calin and Trey Jones and whatnot. Those young core that are still with him. You're basically auditioning for the Spurs rebuild just because they got Chris Paul and Barnes, obviously Wemby and Castle. This team franchise is not out of the woods yet. They're still in the rebuild. It's going to be maybe a couple more seasons before they're like really something to deal with in the West, but they're right on track. They're right on track. They're doing the right moves. Brian Wright, the GM, has a team loaded with draft picks, loaded with flippable players, contracts as well. They can be heavy hitters in the offseason, draft day, trade deadline. They can, if they want to fast track this rebuild, they can do it right now. Right now. Oh, Danny Ainge, you want that Godfather deal for Lauri Markkanen? You got it. And guess what, Josh? It'd just be a drop in the bucket for them. I mean, that's how loaded they are. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the Spurs come out of the rebuild. The Wemby era continues and who sticks around with them.
Yeah, because they got like a lot of these like future picks and pick swaps. They got the Kings one. They've got the Hawks picks. They've got the Wolves pick from the draft as well. They got a lot of stuff that is coming in. To me, one of the burning questions, apart from like who is coming along and what we're going to see from Wembanyama, is the guy that you just mentioned. There is talking about Devin Vassell. Like, can he be a bona fide number 2 offensive option? He took some steps forward last season. We've seen some improvements in his pick and roll ability. Do you think that he can be that number 2 running mate with Wemby? You think he can do it?
I think he can do it. Here's the catch, though. He's got to stay healthy.
Yeah, true.
He's been injured the last couple seasons, and that frustrates him. He said it himself when the season ended last year, that one of his goals is to remain healthy and play as long as he can without being shelved. And we saw that last year, the year before. Look, maybe that was part of the tank move. You don't know, but nevertheless, he would like to be. I think he would like to be that number 2 guy to Wemby. He has all the tools. He is that guy. When the Spurs were chasing Lauri Markkanen, at least according to reports, don't know, but that told me like maybe the team doesn't think Vassell is that number 2 guy. Markkanen probably would be, but that ship sailed. Now you're with Vassell. I really believe he can be the Robin to the Batman. I really believe that. He just got to stay healthy, be consistent from the outside shots, and just keep on. He's trajecting the right way. There's no doubt about it. He's going on the upward spike, which is yay. Just got to stay healthy and be consistent.
Last season, he averaged like 19 points. He had 23 usage. He played 33 minutes. Like, it's only a small little bit on top of that. Like, get 3 extra points a game. Like, just do a tiny little bit extra. Like, you're not far off. I agree with you. I think he can get there. Your bold prediction for this season, Jeff, is one that I think a few people will have this idea, and you think that they can make the play. We already talked about them getting up to 30. Like, how many wins do you think it's going to take for them to achieve this bold goal?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Vegas has them pegged around 34, 35 win season next year. In the West, you need about 45 to get in ish. I mean, look at Houston. Houston was 41 last year?
Yeah, 41.
And they were knocking on the door.
Yep.
They were knocking on the door to the bitter end. So the Spurs need to at least get 42, 43 around there just to get that last play-in spot. But that's a considerable. That's a 21, 22 win jump.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Which
is hard. That's right. It's really hard. But again,
it's going to be hard, yeah.
We talk about like, it's always like if anyone can have that leap and bring a team up. Like, from what we've seen, like, it is Victor Wembanyama, and they made the moves to suggest that they're interested in doing that. So, like, when you bring in Chris Paul and you bring in Harrison Barnes, you're interested in making that move. And we think that he can do it. So, it is something to watch. And lastly, because I know you're on a tight schedule here, your predicted team record. You have gone with just the 35 wins, but we said, like, to get to that plan, they've got to go higher. But 35 is a big jump from last season anyway. It's not all just about wins and losses for this team as much as they would like to. And we know, Jeff, that Wemby's like, screw this shit. Like, I want to win these games.
Yeah.
Like, he wants to, like, he doesn't want to win games. He actually wants to destroy people, which is like an unbelievable mindset for a guy of that ability. And we'll see where that kicks in. But 35 wins would be a great result. I think they can go higher. We'll see how it goes. They are one of the most intriguing teams to watch for this season. Jeff, thank you. I know you're on a tight schedule, but thank you for coming on and chatting to me about the San Antonio Spurs. People can check out all of your work over at Locked On Spurs. Thanks again, Jeff, for coming on.
Anytime, Josh.